Hi, everyone, and welcome to China EVs and More. Happy New Year, everyone, to the first episode of 2024. My co-host Lei Xing and I will go over the week's most important and interesting news coming out of the global EV, AV, and mobility sectors. What Lei and I discussed today is based on our opinions and should not be taken as investment advice. For those that are new to the show, welcome. And to our loyal listeners, welcome back. We ask that you please help us get the word out about this podcast to other enthusiasts. And of course, tune in again next week. My name is Tu Lei, and I'm the managing director at Sino Insights, a global management consultancy that helps organizations bring innovative and tech-focused products and services to the transportation and mobility sectors. I write a free weekly newsletter that we pull many of our discussion topics from. You can sign up for it at sinoautoinsights.com, which of course I encourage you all to do. Happy New Year, Lei.
Happy New Year.
And I feel that you've cheated because I already posted my predictions for 2024. Since this is the first episode of 2-4, we are going to go over our predictions. Some of them bold, some of them not so much, but I'm anxious to hear what your predictions are because I have no idea. So can you please introduce yourself?
Yes, sir. Good morning. This is Lei Xing, your co-host, former chief editor of China Auto Review, and this is episode number 148, right? It is 148.
148.
The first of 2024. And the year of the dragon, not quite there yet. We're still in the year of the
February
rabbit.
10th is Chinese New Year, so...
Yeah, so, that itself, the year of the dragon is if you know what dragon, it's a huge difference than a rabbit, right?
Yes.
And 2023, even though in a year of rabbit, it wasn't a rabbit year.
But was it an aggressive rabbit year?
Yeah. No, I mean the predictions. I think I've made a couple. I tweeted a couple.
Right.
I mean, a lot of it has to do, I guess, with kind of the races to start off on the sales side of it, which has really been the news so far this year, 4 or 5 days into it.
Every single media outlet has posted about BYD beating Tesla. And the fine print needs to be clear that they beat them on BEV sales alone in Q4 of 23. Tesla beat them for the full year. So
yeah, so I don't look at it as a BYD versus Tesla. I look at it as a BYD and Tesla versus everyone else.
Sure.
I think you probably would agree with that kind of really the 30,000 foot level grand scheme of things. Because when you look at the U.S. market, maybe, I don't know, globally, the Chinese market, there's only one company in each of those markets that stand out, which are BYD and Tesla. And then the rest combined, I tweeted that, I don't know what's the global EV sales this year, but together they're about 5 million units. And I think Tesla did, I just saw this, 1.6, was it 1 point? No, that's wrong.
1.81, you mean?
No, 1.81 globally, but I think in China, I forgot the number top of my head.
Well, think of it this way. So 52% of the 1.81 were produced in China. And let's say...
shipped out of China.
Yeah, 90% of that were domestically consumed. Let's just say around 90 or 70, 80% of that.
Yeah.
Okay, so at 1.81, that means over 900,000 units were built in China, and let's say 75% of that, so 700,000 units were sold in China by Tesla in 2023.
Yeah, and BYD, roughly, let's just, make it simple, 10% of their sales were overseas. So 3,300,000 were overseas. Not quite 300,000, but, to make it easy, right?
Yeah, so if we want to do the versus, there's pros and cons for both Tesla and BYD. BYD, the monster share was sold in China. Although they have entered over 60 markets, the international sales is a very, very, very small portion. And for Tesla,
70.
Yeah.
Official numbers are 70 countries and regions and 400 cities. Yeah, so.
That's bananas, by the way. That's a bananas number. But yeah. But yeah, if we wanted to skew or put our thumb on the scale for a Tesla or a BYD, we could do that. But to your point, I think it is more accurate to say in the clean energy space, it's a BYD Tesla world. Everyone else just lives in it for now.
Yeah, and one prediction I had made was for the full year 2024, BYD tops Tesla in BEV sales globally, and we're
Oh yeah,
looking at
I
over
don't think
2 million
that's.
units.
I don't think.
So
I think that's like an easy prediction for you.
yeah, yeah, I think BYD will try every way it can to do it. And another caveat is we put both Tesla stand and BYD stand head on. The selling points of the majority of BYD vehicles are lower, but profitability wise, gross margin wise, BYD is not that much behind, or maybe they're ahead,
They're ahead in
depending on
the
the
recent quarters. They're ahead.
right, depending on the final year annual numbers. But and I think also kudos to Tesla because Tesla is doing this with 3 and the Y only majority of it, whereas BYD is doing this with I don't know some
A
20
dozen,
models,
a dozen.
yeah, a dozen or more. Right, so there's so many ways you can compare and debate, who's ahead, who's behind, but at the end of the day, both are just far ahead of everybody else, scale-wise, efficiency-wise, right? So
What can't be disputed is that scale wins out because if you're shipping 20,000 units a month, your costs are still amortized over a small denominator. Whereas for BYD, it's over 300,000 units. For Tesla, it's between 50 and 70,000 units. And that's just China. Okay. So, in order to get any positive margins, any positive profits, you likely have to be shipping 60, 70,000 units a month, full stop.
and yeah,
That's probably break even for, and I'm, and we could get a bit more accurate, but let's just say 75,000 units. If you're not shipping 75,000 units either into China or globally, you're probably not going to be profitable.
yeah, and that's the thing, for many of these newbies, they're still operating at a loss, and to get to that kind of scale is I mean the only thing we can think of, which would be the next prediction, is Li Auto is trying to get to 100,000 a month, less than 5 years after it delivered its first vehicle.
And what's not really appreciated in that forecast or goal is that they can, number one, their products will track that demand. And then number two, they can build to that demand because we've seen Rivian, Lucid, all kinds of EV companies not able to get mass production ramp sorted out in 12 months, 14 months, 18 months. So getting that demand is the one challenge. And then being able to build to that demand is the other part because we already know that Tesla has gone through manufacturing hell. So let's assume that if you're not building and selling at least 40, 50, 60,000 units a month, you're going to go through that too. And with Li Auto, we've already seen that they're delaying the Mega. And I guarantee you one of those reasons is because it's a BEV and not an EREV. So
Yeah, new platform, new architecture,
and that's to Xpeng's benefit because they're shipping in January for
that's
the
exactly, yeah,
X9.
And I think Brian Gu talked about it. I don't know on CNBC or one of the.
Yep.
There was a 7% price drop compared to the initial I guess pre-order.
And that's what we had talked about, Lei, right? All year last year that they cut price before they even shipped the product.
Yeah. Price on launch. Similar with the E8 today. It's a pre-sale, but I mean it's in the high 100,000s and low 200,000s, and
So let's. You want to start with your predictions besides some of these forecast numbers?
Yeah, so prediction on Li Auto beating the ABBs this year. I don't know what the final numbers will be. Li Auto says 800,000, but let's just say they beat ABB this year. So I think that, in fact, is more significant.
All three of them?
Yes.
Okay. So for the folks that our new ABB in China is a common term for Audi, Beamer, and Benz. And historically, you could set your watch, with the exception of the last few years because of the EV disruption, you could set your watch to Audi, Beamer, Benz selling between 650, 800,000 units annually in the China market. And most of them have now onshored production so that they're building the A4s, A5s, the C class, the E class, and the X3s and the X5s and the 3 Series and the 5 Series locally in China with the partner. And so for Li Auto, who started in 2014 or 2015, to be able to get close to Audi, Beamer, Benz is amazing in and of itself. And to think that you could outsell them now, Li Auto is talking individually. They're not saying we're going to sell more than Audi plus BMW plus Mercedes. They're saying we're going to outsell those three brands individually.
Each of them.
Yes, each of them. Yes. And Lei, that is a mighty fall.
That's why I said it's more significant than BYD topping Tesla even. Because BYD, I mean, they've been doing this for, I say it's a 30 year in the making that they did the 3 million. It's not a 1 year, it's not a 2 year, it's not a 3 year, it's not a 5 year, it's 30 year making. Tesla, 20 years, right?
So CNBC just dropped an article that Evelyn and Arjun had wrote. I think Taylor and I are both quoted in it. For those that are looking to learn more about BYD's history, all you need to know is Wang Chuanfu is a freaking ninja gangster. He's as ambitious as anybody in the West. And from a vertical integration standpoint, and Sandy Munro had brought this up when I was on that panel with them and John McElroy's show. He said the Harvard business cases and the Harvard business educated folks wanted to tell you to outsource everything. And BYD did the opposite. And there's no way that Wang Chuanfu knew that COVID was going to happen. EV adoption was going to happen so quickly in China. But guess what? All of those long-term decisions that they made, acquiring that Chinese brand, automotive brand in 2003 that blew up, basically, doubling down on battery technology, fabbing their own chips. When you combine all of that, that's what gives them this huge advantage. Huge advantage. Let me add something, because there was this article in Barron's, and it was quoting an analyst, because now there's also a lot of articles that said, oh, Elon messed up. He made bad decisions, and he should have, instead of developed the Cybertruck, he should have developed the Model 2. One of the analysts was like, oh, that's idiotic, or he said something stupid. And he was like, oh, because the technology is not available yesterday, it's available tomorrow. And my first thought was, well, then why is BYD profitable? So this analyst doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. Anyways, because if Tesla wants to build that Model 2, they need to buy batteries from somebody else. But don't tell me that they can't build that the Model 2 couldn't be profitable if it was built today. It could be. So full stop. Anyways, I'm jumping off my soapbox.
Yeah, but looking ahead, so I did say BYD will pass this year to BEV in full year BEV sales over Tesla. But looking ahead, I think it gets a lot harder. Tesla is going to be very difficult for them to get to another 50%. And from 1.8 million, adding 900,000 units. I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think that's going to happen, right? And then BYD, where does BYD go? Do you want to make a prediction? I mean, 3 million units, can they get to 4? That's a 33% growth, right? 30%.
I guess in order for me to decide on whether Tesla and BYD can get to, and I'm give me a second to think about who's going to sell more in 2024. What's important is that the countries that they sell in, the United States and China, those are the two most important countries. And we need to look at in 2024, how much is EV sales going to grow in the United States? And then in China, how much is the overall market going to grow? Because we went from 22 and change in 2022 to, I think, now around 25 million units. And so I think the big part of them still being able to get high double digits in growth is because strong growth in United States, continuous strong growth in China. And I think that's where you are pointing to it's more challenging in 2024 because there might not be that strong growth that we're looking at in the United States and China that we've seen in the past.
So because, if I extrapolate a little bit, so in order to get to above 2 million and based on half and half, so BYD and D would probably have to get to, around 4 million because half of it will be BEVs based on the 2023 numbers.
And we're assuming no friction because if we look at capacity and if Tesla is able to increase capacity of Shanghai Giga, it creates a lot more flexibility for them, a lot more pressure for them to sell, but also a lot more flexibility. And for BYD, we need to not only look at finished goods capacity, meaning the actual automotive capacity that they have, but we need to look up the supply chain to see how much battery capacity they have. Because if they run short of battery capacity, they're supplying Ford, they're supplying Tesla, they're supplying Toyota. Guess who's not going to get it? It's not going to be the BYD vehicles. It's going to be their customers' vehicles.
Yeah.
So it's a bit more complicated. And we haven't even talked about the tariffs, the political aspects. Because,
we'll get there.
Yeah. So, but I'm saying that, for BYD, it's a little bit cleaner if they can continue to sell well into China. For Tesla to sell well, they need Europe, they need China, they need the United States, but they need most of those batteries to come from China.
Yeah, and if, BYD spreads its cost well, then, the Yangwangs, right? Yangwang, I think they did 1,600 units in December, and that's over $1 million a pop, RMB, $150,000. And they'd sold 1,600 units. You do the math. If they can sell tens of thousands of the Yangwang in 2024, profitability-wise, that's a huge boost. Same with the Fangcheng, right? Fangcheng, so that's something to watch.
And this is where BYD, I feel it's easier to go start down market and go up market as opposed to up market to down market. And, if you look at the US 3, Stellantis, a disproportionate share of their profits comes from the Americas because of the Ram trucks that are sold. And so 15% of total sales in the United States goes to SUVs and trucks, but it drives most of the US 3's profits. So my point is that BYD doesn't actually need to grow Yangwang from a volume standpoint that much.
Right.
If sales gets to a few thousand a month, they're winning.
Yeah.
Fangcheng Bao a little bit more because their price point is a little bit lower, but again, still premium, not $1 million RMB premium. And for those that are wondering, $1 million RMB is around 150,000 US dollars.
Yeah.
See, one of the things, the things that you did, I didn't call out sales volumes, but I should have anyways, but please continue.
Yeah, but then you and I complement each other, right?
Yeah.
And we'll talk about your, others. And then again, the overall market, my current model is just under 13 million. Now that includes 13 million NEVs, that include exports.
Yep.
And the reason I'm saying that is if we look at the overall market being 30 million, including exports this year, in 2023, with a third take rate expected to grow to 40%. You just do the math, right? 3 times 4 is 12 million. And China always, at the end of the year, always gets stronger. So my model is looking at just below 13 million. 13 million NEVs, including exports, in 2024.
So basically, you're saying it effectively matches the U.S. market, the entire size of the U.S. market.
Add another 3 million units to whatever 9.34 in 2023.
The one thing that gives me pause on that number, Lei, has nothing to do with cars. Has everything to do with China's overall economy.
Yes.
And if it is 13 million, but the Chinese economy is still struggling, there's there's going to be a disproportionate. The growth in exports is going to be huge. Is what I'm saying.
Yes, which is a kind of a caveat because that's part of the driver of that volume. And also the price war you predicted, right? This is, I mean, we said this a long time ago that it's going to be a big theme in 2024 again. And, I'm sure Xiaomi is right now, the way you would put it is sharpening their pencils and trying to decide on the price point of the Su7.
Yes.
Because, like the Galaxy E8, all these prices right around the 200,000 RMB range makes it very difficult for a brand like a Xiaomi to launch it above 300,000. That's all you have to.
Because they know they will be dead in the water before they actually even launch the vehicle.
Yeah.
I mean, what they're ultimately hoping for, Lei, is that the Chinese economy by June, July starts to really grow again. That's what they're hoping for.
Yeah. But I mean, the 200,000 RMB range again. This is with NIO launching Alps,
where BYD lives.
With Xpeng, by the way, launching the Mona right around the, I guess, unveiling or launch right around the Beijing Auto Show time. That's 150,000 RMB with advanced their XNGP features. Okay, so these are drivers.
So what you're saying is that for a vehicle that's cheaper than the Chevy Bolt, you're going to get almost level 2 or level 2 plus or level 3 ADAS.
Well, let's just say level 2 plus.
2 plus. Yeah. Okay. Because technically it's not level, or legally it's not level 3. Agreed.
Yeah.
So for less than $25,000, you're going to get the Chinese domestic brands version of FSD.
Something like that.
Yeah. So that's bananas. That's bonkers.
And then we can talk about some of yours. And maybe some of yours, I read your newsletter, we can be a little bit more specific.
Okay. Very good. Well, I was talking to Russell Flannery from Forbes, so I'd given some of my predictions already. And let me see. So the newsletter yesterday highlighted some of my bolder predictions, right? And I think some of these are more far-fetched, but I'm just throwing them out there. I think NIO finds a partner in 2024.
You said something about cabbage?
Yeah.
I'm going to say something else. Okay. I'm going to say sushi is pretty good.
Yes. I thought about that too. But I feel Kia Hyundai have so much to offer, but they are continuing to struggle in the China market. And maybe they feel that the only way to really get past the single digit share is to partner with a Chinese brand. Okay. And so does this make sense with NIO and a Korean? I'm not sure, but to me, on the European side, there's just not many attractive players, right? Because Mercedes is, so.
No, I think from a point of view of being, what's the word I'm looking for? The opposite of conservative. What's the word?
Aggressive?
Yeah, from the aggressive point of view, I would probably rank the Koreans, Hyundai, Kia, at the very back, and the Germans at the very top in terms of China EVification. So that's the reason, I said sushi is pretty good. Because, I mean, the Japanese relatively, they're working with BYD, right?
Yeah.
So I think the Koreans, they're still trying to figure it out themselves.
Yes.
Because they don't have really they have EVs, but, right, like I said, it's not resonating.
One thing, Lei, I will pat myself on the back for is that I had written massive layoffs at the legacies, and not 2 hours into having the newsletter out in the wild, I get a link from a friend, and the article title is Volkswagen and Works Council agreed on staff cost reduction.
Yeah. This was, I think, like announced right at the end of last year.
Yeah. So
some kind of a agreement.
Yeah.
So that was.
I didn't know about this.
That was due.
So let me
Yeah.
reassure you folks that I did not see this article. But what else did I write? Did you have any like, oh man, this guy's crazy? Did you have any reaction with any of my predictions like that, where it's like, yeah, that's not going to happen? Or did you see them? So let me just say this. Let me summarize the ones that I had said in Forbes, because one or two of them I'm kind of regretting that I said. Price wars will last. I think you agree with that too.
Yes.
China.
The entering America, yes. I think, yes, I'll add.
Okay, so that they will enter the Americas through Mexico, and not just EV. So traditional automotive as well for Chinese domestic brands.
Yeah, good point. And I'll add to that is regardless, and I think I've said this before, that announcement will be made from a brand entering America.
Yep.
Announcement, not actually entering, but an announcement.
Oh yeah, I think there's going to be a couple.
So I think it's just a, piggyback on your prediction.
But the one thing that I think you would also agree with is that it's going to put the United States and Mexico relationship diplomatically at a crossroads, because Mexico is going to see record foreign direct investment likely from Chinese companies. And the reason I don't say brands is because battery companies will also be investing in Mexico.
Yeah. And 2024 is an election year. So, I mean, that's a huge factor in itself.
Yeah. And it's not only that the US and Mexico might start to have some debate about this, but the federal government and the state governments in the United States might also have some heartburn, because I know for a fact that the US governors all want to increase jobs. That's part of their scorecard. And if all those jobs are going to Mexico, there's going to be some heartburn with that too.
Sure.
And so I think in 2024, that takes more of a front row seat with regards to reactions, politicization, things like that. The one thing that I wrote that I was kind of like, man, I read it again. I was like, I don't know if that's going to happen. I wrote foreign brands will selectively succeed in China. So I think.
Well, what do you mean by selectively succeed?
Well, so I don't think I wrote selectively. I picked out one or two brands. I picked out GM because they're going to have many more EVs in the China market in 2024. So when I say succeed, what I meant to say is we've kind of seen them bottom out now. And I don't think they'll lose as much share in 2024 as they have over the last 3 years. And I think we'll actually see some good news from a GM, maybe from a Volkswagen, if they can get their shit together on the ID side. So, and then Toyota with the hybrids, right? Toyota with the hybrids. Less so Volkswagen.
I've never seen you this positive. Be, dunking on the VWs and
wow. So but VW and GM, I think, have different reasons for not succeeding. I think VW, the EVs that they have on offer in China are terrible. I think with GM, they just don't have that many.
Let's just say this. It's fair to say, I think on the ICE side, they'll continue to lose share.
Yep.
And NEVs, the Chinese brands will dominate. Besides Tesla, I think, Volkswagen, GM, their sales rankings in NEVs are improving.
Dude, don't call me out, man. I told you I wasn't confident in that bullet.
But that's why we debate, right?
No, I'm just joking. But I do think that Toyota is going to do really well with hybrids in China in 2024.
Yeah, I think for the foreign legacies, flat growth will be a win.
Yes, that's what I meant.
2024, I think, to be specific, because Volkswagen, there's some numbers. Their official numbers of 2022 was 3.8 million group in China. In 2023, the final numbers are not out yet, but probably right around that, if they do 3.18, 17, 16, that's a win.
Yeah, so that's where I wanted to really articulate in more detail what I meant by selectively succeed. I didn't actually think they're going to take 10%, 20% share. I actually meant that they're going to bottom out in 2023, and then we'll start to see some life from these foreign brands, particularly GM and Toyota. So that's what I meant. Real quick, Lei, two folks have posted questions. Lei and I are going to riff for a few more minutes, and then we will get to your questions. So appreciate your patience. The other thing that I think is worth talking about.
The U.S. capital markets will attract Chinese EV makers. You talking about IPO or
Yeah.
the EVAV Inc.
WeRide,
chip?
Lotus, Zeekr.
WeRide, all these type of.
Do you think Horizon's not? They do Hong Kong, I think.
WeRide.
Yeah, WeRide.
Yeah,
They've already, I think, applied.
So RoboSense just IPO'd in Hong Kong.
Yep.
Hesai is here.
The last thing that I want to get your take on is, so I wrote two things. The EV price war moves west. We saw that GM is going to offer rebates on the EVs that aren't being subsidized by the Inflation Reduction Act. So when I wrote the price war moves west, that hadn't happened yet. So that looks like it's going to happen. And the reasons for the price war moving west: slow demand, hybrids taking share, excess capacity because Ford, GM have flipped some capacity over to EVs. And we saw last year, I think GM sold 80 something thousand. And of that, only 20% were off or less than 20% of those were off the Ultium platform. So, wow, it is not great. And that tells me that there's excess capacity sitting around doing nothing in the United States.
Yeah.
And that always equals price cuts. The last thing, Lei, is that I'm predicting that the United States government is going to increase the tariff. What's your take on that?
That's where it's going.
Yeah. And this is dangerous. Dangerous, probably not. It is risky because it pushes the Chinese automakers even more so to Mexico. Okay.
So we'll probably hear, so in the US, so France has already done it. So the EU Commission's investigation, BYD, Geely, and SAIC Motor will know more about it maybe later this year and see what happens. Right? These are all ongoing that we expect these kind of protectionism or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, but I think the China EV marches on no matter what. If not in the US, somewhere else.
And I'm looking forward. Hopefully our listeners are feeling a bit fired up, frisky, whatever. We get some feedback, some pushback on my or your predictions.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, just, our last episode that I said, last year we were able to test Chinese EVs on 3 different continents. That in itself is the sign of things to come, right?
I think that says, and I'm going to pat ourselves on the back. I think that says a lot about us, but also about the market in general. But,
and who the heck are you referring to when you're saying CEO of a global automaker steps down?
Oh man, I'll tell you offline. Because
I think I know which one you're referring to.
Yeah, but man, it's like you look at the 2023, and there's a couple of legacies that really stand out for how poor they've done in 2023. So, anyways,
speaking of, so there will be some exits also made
forced.
Yeah, no, not positions, not executives, but companies.
Oh yeah,
we're already hearing some chatter.
Yes,
right.
You're talking about going out of business, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm telling you, man, we thought they were going to go out. We thought at least 2 or 3 businesses were going to go out of business. We thought FF, we thought Chentu, but they're always sticking around.
Yeah.
I think the companies you're referring to, and please add to them if I'm not saying.
Well, Hi-Fi is the one that
and WM, right? WM's out, right?
Yeah, WM. I mean, they've been out.
The question is, does Hi-Fi have any IP that's worth acquiring?
Yeah, I don't know.
And so, let me see here. Those are all of the. Oh, one thing that I did want to recommend, if you haven't read it yet, Lei, is Kevin Williams' article.
Yeah, I saw that on the Blazer, right? Is that the one you're referring to? Yeah.
Oh my God! And for those of you that think that the legacy automakers are just going to just all of a sudden flip a switch and become software experts. You have to read this article on the newly launched Chevy Blazer in the United States. It became a brick after 28 hours of driving it. And it's
Does the one is that the one that no longer has the CarPlay or not yet?
yeah. I think they took. Well, I think CarPlay is leaving this year.
Okay.
In the 25 models.
Yeah.
I want to
Okay.
say,
All right.
but it is in the back of my mind because I'm an ex GM employee. I have 3 family members that have retired from GM, so I feel a little bit of loyalty to them. I was excited about the Blazer EV, especially when they launched it and said it was going to start at $40,000. It's a $57,000 car right now, but if I was to get a discount in addition to the 7,500, it would be something I would consider.
Yeah, and the other company I may bring up is Neta. If you look at the charts, Neta was at the very, very bottom in December, and the CEO basically like cleaned what's the word? Cleaned
Clean house?
clean house almost
Yeah.
of their sales and marketing, and he's now in charge of I think sales and marketing. Zhang Yong, the CEO of Neta.
Well, there's only one strategy, right? Just cut price.
Yeah, so they had some issues with launching some new products and capacity tweak on one of their models. I mean, he made an explanation on Weibo, but right when you have a company that sells like 15,000 a month all the way to 5,000, all of a sudden, right, these things no one's immune.
And the opposite end of the spectrum, Lei, is that Leap Motor announced sales of 145,000. So that's growth, best year ever. And the driver of a lot of that growth was the E-Revs that they shipped this in 2023. So
More E-Revs from Avatar. Who else? Right?
Yep. So E-Revs, for those that are wondering, are extended range electric vehicles. There's an engine that is powered by petrol that doesn't drive the wheels. It drives recharging the battery. But that's what Li Auto exclusively manufactures right now, with the Mega, the minivan, being the first BEV for them, as Lei had mentioned earlier in the show. Now, so it's important to remember that, again, because software glitches are not the exclusive domain of Legacy Auto, because IM Motors
Had something going on.
launching a patch for some software issues because the screen goes blank. So it's not.
Yeah, I think Hi-Fi had issues as well.
Well, unfortunately, in China, you don't get a second chance if you're an EV maker and you have major software issues, right?
Right.
You're just going to get bashed on Weixin, Weibo, and they will not. You'll get blackballed real quick in the United States. I mean, case in point is Volkswagen with the ID series, right? I think so. So the other thing too that I wanted to highlight, but I didn't put in the newsletter, was that I think the data security, data privacy is going to come into focus in Europe and the United States with regards to foreign brands entering their markets. Okay. I think that 2023 was the eye-opening, oh my God, there are so many Chinese brands and they're starting to enter our markets. Now, I would say, and I pointed to a chart about German registrations for EVs. Okay. So growth rates extremely high. We're talking 50, 60, 70% year over year growth. But the denominator, the base, is still very small.
Small, yep.
Okay. So if we're looking at December registrations for Germany, MG was 2.6 thousand units. Right. So not a ton from a number standpoint, but I mean, if you look at it, there's MG, Smart, BYD, Great Wall, Polestar, Neo, Lincoln Co., Maxus, Lotus, iWay. There's a ton of brands. Okay. And the crazy thing is MG, Smart, Polestar, Lotus, LEVC, European brands, not Chinese brands. So I want to also emphasize that as they export, it's going to be US brands, it's going to be German brands, it's going to be European brands, Japanese brands, think Nissan. It's not just going to be Chinese brands exporting from China.
Yeah.
So
that's something else to look into 2024 and beyond is the China increasingly become, I guess, an export base,
an export hub
for
all
foreign
automakers.
brands. Yeah. Not only for Chinese brands.
Because who's driving most of the EV exports from China currently? Tesla. So remember that.
Tesla, yeah, MG, I think MG, I think the MG4 EV did like 100,000 units
Right.
total global last year. So
what'll likely shift is Tesla's numbers for export will go down as they ramp Berlin and Austin. Okay. But I'm feeling pretty good about everything we've talked about. And unless you have any news this week that we missed or you want to bring up, if not, we can open the room up.
not that I can think of.
Okay, so let me read the question, okay? Any insight on new China VTG, so vehicle to grid registration? Could this give BYD a huge advantage, specifically because of its LFP chemistry?
I think this is probably so the policy wise, this news came out of the what do you call it, the energy
Storage facilities, right?
Yeah, well, the four, NDRC, MIT came out with this, basically requiring in the pilot cities, hoping to use off-peak grid to charge like 60% of the EVs.
Yep.
So it's like an encouragement of, better utilizing grid. So it's too early to say, but I mean, it's definitely positive for companies such as NIO, that have this power or storage play.
Oh, it's definitely advantaged NIO.
Yeah.
And it's definitely advantaged BYD because they build their own batteries.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I guess that will be the way to put it.
And what we're seeing is this is a global phenomenon. It's not unique to China. Companies like Our Next Energy, their first product they're shipping is actually storage for cities and companies for facilities. And it's simple LFP batteries that they're using. And it's basically a big building with a bunch of LFP battery modules in it that it utilizes as a big battery pack for a building, a city, a municipality. We're going to see more of that as they try to be smarter. And this is also where clean energy comes in, solar, wind, to capture that energy during peak hours or capture that energy so that during peak hours you can use the stored capacity for battery or for electricity as opposed to pulling from the grid. So let me see here. NIO's ADAS chip supposed to be better than NVIDIA Drive Orin. Do you think they will keep it exclusively for their own use as a part of the moat or license the tech sell chips goose their revenues? Let me start with that one. I supposed to be and is to me is a huge distance. I mean, there's a huge gap between supposed to be and is. And think of it this way. NVIDIA is pretty much the only game in town. Their margins are off the charts. So if NVIDIA's was even close, if NIO's silicon was even close, NVIDIA would just dump price in order to maintain share. So because the silicon, the capital cost for getting that silicon initially made is going to be extremely expensive for NIO. And they got to think about how they're going to be investing in their future, whether it's new products, whether it's silicon design, whether it's swapping. I mean, those are going to be huge decisions that need to be made from a capital expenditure standpoint. So I don't know of any silicon design company that's that close to NVIDIA. We saw Mobileye get trashed in the markets this week.
Yeah, yesterday, yeah. So my 2 cents is that, first of all, this is going to materialize, needs a few years to materialize. So this is beyond 2025, first of all. Second of all, there are many things I think that NIO could be a kind of a supplier role, starting with the power swap being one example. There are e-motors being one example. So don't count it out. But at this point, I think it's too early to say for sure that, bye-bye NVIDIA, right? Bye-bye Qualcomm. No.
Yeah, none of these guys are clearly out of the woods with the exception of BYD and Tesla. So I think things could go really well for these companies next year. And I would be more positive on that comment if I knew the price war was going to end just around the corner. It makes Neo, it makes BYD, it makes Xpeng, all the players that survived, it makes them stronger. But until it's over, they're not in positions of strength. Here's one question for you on the space. When do you expect to start seeing Mexico-made EVs enter the U.S. market in volume? 2026 or potentially earlier? What do you think, Lei?
Well, let's say we'll know maybe for sure after the election is over.
Yes.
I don't see any reason pointed not being earlier, but not at least not anything meaningful until post 2025, I would say.
So if we're looking at timing, 2026 is probably, again, I think you'd said this, Lei, the earliest, because I don't know of any Chinese EV brands that have actually announced or have broken ground in factories in Mexico.
So one company is to look out for is Chery, right?
Yeah.
I think they hinted that they had America in their sights. So,
And what's important is, are we all in building 150,000 unit, 200,000 unit capacity factory? Because remember, it's not just an EV finished good challenge. It is also going to be, where am I going to get my batteries from? And so
right.
if that capacity is not built out in anywhere in the Americas or North America, specifically from other Chinese brands up the food chain, then that's going to be constrained. The one thing to keep an eye out for is the business model that BYD has with India, where they ship kits for final assembly in India. So they ship kits for their vehicles from China to India, and they do final assembly, or CKD, right? Knockdown kits. And so I could see that possibly happening for one or two brands that want to quickly enter North America through Mexico. But
Yeah.
I've been told that labor is an issue, labor shortage, skilled labor is an issue in Mexico. So I don't necessarily believe that we're going to see this mad dash. I think it's a bit more complicated than that. And so it'll take some time. There will be some more ambitious companies, the ones that I think are cash rich. And because let's assume that they all have global ambitions, but the companies that can actually pay for it or pay for the portion that's not subsidized by the Mexican government, I think that's going to really tell you who the potential players are from the pretenders. So,
Yeah.
And you don't have to make a comment. You can raise your hand too. I'm trying to look here. I don't see any other questions. So unless anyone has any questions, maybe
I think we're good.
Yeah.
And so next week I'll be at CES, and there's certainly going to be a lot of news coming out of the China AV companies that will be there.
Zeekr's going to be there.
Zeekr 07.
Yeah.
I mean, Zeekr is trying to be here. Let's just period.
Yeah.
IPO wise or market wise. Let's just say that.
Zeekr 美国. So
yeah. And we'll probably hear some LiDAR announcements. Really, Chinese LiDAR is getting onto international OEMs.
Dude, that's so super competitive.
Yeah.
LiDAR is super competitive right now.
Yeah.
I unfortunately have decided that I will not make it. I have too many things going on personally and professionally. So,
well, this year on an auto show circuit, so CES and then the Geneva Motor Show at the end of February, Beijing Auto Show are probably at least in the first half of the year that
Shanghai F1
worthy of. Yeah. I think we're good.
Cool. Hey, everyone, Happy New Year, 新年快乐. And thanks for joining us. And to those that are new, hopefully this was pretty interesting, because we'd love to have you back next week. And for the loyal listeners, there's quite a few of them that I see in the room right now. Thanks for continuing to listen. Hopefully we're not only informative, we're a bit entertaining as well. But
yes, very much appreciated.
But I see 2024 continuing to be a super interesting time for the automotive, mobility, transportation, EV space. So hang with us, and we'll keep you informed.
And just more, I guess, just more opportunity and chance to experience the latest offerings.
Yeah,
wherever we are in the world, not only in China. So that's
you guys. Obviously, they're in this room, so they're all curious. Everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Have a good weekend. We will talk with you all next week.
Same here. Thank you very much. Happy New Year. Bye-bye. Talk to you next week.
That brings us to the end of this week's show. Lei and I thank you for tuning in. My name is Tu Lei, and you can find me on Twitter at Sino Auto Insight. That's SinoAutoInsight. You can find Lei on Twitter at LeiXing77. That's LEIXING77. If you wouldn't mind rating and or reviewing us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you grab your podcast from, we'd appreciate that as well. Even better, if you enjoy this show, please tell your friends about it. Please join us again next week as we track down all the latest news on China, EVs, and more.